Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Nitya Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitya Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Siddhara Siddharine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 16, Text number 6. Yasya Amrita Amala Yashaha Shravana Avagahaha Sadhyaha Punati Jagat Ashvapachat Vikuntaha Saha Aham Bhavadbhyaha Upalabdha Sutirtha Kiritihi Chindhyam Swabahum Ape Vaha Pratikula Vrittim Yasyamritamalaya Shravanavagaha Sadhya Punati Jagadashvapachar Vikunta Sohang Bhavadbhya Upalabdha Sutirtha Kirtish Chindhyam Svabahum Apiva Pratikula Vrithim Yasyamritamalaya Malayasha Shravanavagaha Sadhya Punate Jagadashvapachar Vikunta Sohang Bhavadya Upalabdha Sutirtha Kirtish Chindhyam Sabahum Apiva Pratikula Vrittim Yasyamritamalaya Prashavanavagaha Sadhya Punati Jagadashvapachar Vikunta Soham Bhavabdya Upalabdha Sutirtha Kirtish Chindyasabahumapiva pratikula-vrittim.
Yasyam Tamala Yasha Shravanavagaha
Sa one, one.
Sidya Punati Jagadashvapachad Vikunta Soham Bhavadya Upalabdha Sukirti Tirta Kirti
Chindyasabahumapiva pratikula-vrittish.
Chinjam Sabaham Apiva Patikula Vittam
Chindyasabahumapiva pratikula-vrittim. The mic is right there. Devotees can just pass it by hand, one at a time.
Yasyamartamalayasha Shravanavagaha
Yasavrata yashasha shravanavagaha.
Sadya Punati Jagadashvapacharvikunta
Sadya punati jagadashvapacharvikunta.
Soham Bhavabhya Upalabdha Sutirta Kirtis
Soham bhavadya upalabdha sutirtha kirtish.
Chinyam Sabahumapiva Pratikula Vrittim
Chinda sabahom apiva pratikula vrittim.
Yasyamritamala Yasha Shravanavagaha
Yasyamritamana yasha shravanavagaha.
Sadhya Punati Jagadashvapachad Vikunta
Sadya punati jagadashvapacharvikunta.
Soham Bhavadya Upalabdha Sutirta Kirti
Soham bhavabdya upalabdha sutirtha kirtish.
Chindyam Svabahum Apiva Pratikula Vritim
Chindam svabahum apiva putikula vrittim.
Yasyamritamala Yasha Shravanavagaha
Yasya shashan yashashan shavanavagaha.
Sadya Punhati Jagata Shvapachad Vikunta
Sadya punati jagadashvapacharvikunta.
Soham Bhavabhya Upalabdha Sutirta Kirtish
Soham bhavabdya upalabdha sutirtha kirtish.
Chindyam Swabahum Apiva Pratikula Vritim
Chindam sabahum apiva pratikula vrittim.
Yashamara Yasha Shravanavagaha
Yasavritamana yasharavanaavagaha.
Sadhya Punati Jagarad Ashvapachad Vikuntas
Sadya punati jagadashvapacharvikunta.
Soham Bhavabhaya Upalabhya Sutrita Kritis
Soham bhavabdya upalabdha sutirtha kirtish.
Chindayam Swabaham Apiva Partikula Vritam
Chindam svabahum apiva putikula vrittim.
Yasya amrita vasha shravana vakaha. I don't get it.
Shravanavagaha.
Satya punati jagat ashvapashat vikuntaha.
Sadya punati jagadashvapacharvikunta.
सोऽहं भवभाय उपलब्धसुतीर्थकीर्तिः
Soham bhavadbhya upalabdha sutirtikirtish.
चिन्त्यं स्वभावमपि वाह प्रतिकूलवृत्तिम्
Chindam savahom apiva pratikula vrittim.
यस्यामृतमलयशा श्रवणावगाः
Yasya mritamala shravanavagaha.
सद्या पुनाति जगदश्वपचाद्विकुण्ठा
Sadya punati jagarashvapacharvikunta.
सोऽहं भवाब्द्य उपलब्ध्य सुकीर्तकीर्तिस्
Soham bhavabhya upalabdha sutirtikirtish.
चिन्त्यां स्वभावमपि वा प्रतिकूलवृत्तिम्
Chindam savahom apiva pratikula vrittim.
यस्यामृतामलयशः श्रवणावगाः
Yasya shravanavagaha.
सद्यः पुनाति जगताश्वपचा विकुण्ठः
Sadya punate jagarashvapacharvikunta.
सोऽहं भवद्य उपलब्धसुतीर्थकीर्तिः
Soham bhavadbhyalupalabdha sutirtikirtish.
छिन्द्यां सबाहुमपि वा प्रतिकूलवृत्तिम्
Chindhyam sabahom apiva pratikula vrittim.
यास्यामृतामलयशा श्रवणावगाः
Yasyabritamalaya
सद्या पुनाति जगदाश्वपचाद्विकुण्ठा
Sadya punate jagarashvapacharvikunta.
सोऽहं भवद्भ्य उपलब्धसुतीर्थकीर्तिः
Soham bhavabhya upalabdha sutirtakirtish.
छिन्द्यां स्वबाहुमपि वा प्रतिकूलवृत्तिम्
Chindhyam sabahom apiva pratikula vrittim. Would anybody else like to chant? Okay. Yasya, of whom? Amrita, nectar. Amala, uncontaminated. Yashaha, glories. Shravana, hearing. Avagahaha, entering into. Sadhyaha, immediately. Punate, purifies. Jagat, the universe. Ashapachat, including even the dog eaters. Vikuntaha, without anxiety. Saha, that person. Aham, I am. Bhavadbhyaha, from you. Upalabdha, obtained. Sutirtha, the best place of pilgrimage. Kirtihi, the fame. Chindam, would cut off. Svabahum, my own arm. Api, even. Vaha, towards you. Pratikula vrittim, acting inimically. Translation. Anyone in the entire world, even down to the Chandala, who lives by cooking and eating the flesh of the dog, is immediately purified if he takes bath in hearing through the ear the glorification of my name, fame, etc. Now you have realized me without doubt. Therefore, I will not hesitate to lop off my own arm if its conduct is found hostile to you. Purport. Real purification can take place in human society if its members take to Krishna consciousness. This is clearly stated in all Vedic literature. Anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness in all sincerity, even if he is not very advanced in good behavior, is purified. A devotee can be recruited from any section of human society, although it is not expected that everyone in all segments of society is well behaved. As stated in this verse and in many places in Bhagavad Gita, even if one is not born in a Brahmana family, or even if he is born in a family of Chandalas, if he simply takes to Krishna consciousness, he is immediately purified. In Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, verses 30 through 32, it is clearly stated that even though a man is not well behaved, if he simply takes to Krishna consciousness, he is understood to be a saintly person. As long as a person is in this material world, he has two different relationships in his dealings with others. One relationship pertains to the body, and the other pertains to the spirit. As far as bodily affairs or social activities are concerned, although a person is purified on the spiritual platform, it is sometimes seen that he acts in terms of his bodily relationships. If a devotee born in the family of a Chandala, the lowest caste, is sometimes found engaged in his habitual activities, he is not to be considered a Chandala. In other words, a Vaishnava should not be evaluated in terms of his body. The Shastra states that no one should think the deity in the temple to be made of wood or stone, and no one should think that a person coming from a lower caste family who has taken to Krishna consciousness is still of the same low caste. These attitudes are forbidden because anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness is understood to be fully purified. He is at least engaged in the process of purification. And if he sticks to the principle of Krishna consciousness, he will very soon be fully purified. The conclusion is that if one takes to Krishna consciousness in all seriousness, he is to be understood as already purified. And Krishna is ready to give him protection by all means. The Lord assures herein that he is ready to give protection to his devotees, even if there is need to cut off part of his own body. Yasyamrita malayasha shravanavagaha sadhya punate jagad ashvapachad vikunta soham bhavadbhya upalabdha sutirtha kirtish chindhyam svabahum apiva pratikula vritim. Anyone in the entire world, even down to the Chandala, who lives by cooking and eating the flesh of the dog, is immediately purified if he takes bath in hearing through the ear the glorification of my name, fame, etc. Now you have realized me without doubt, therefore I will not hesitate to lop off my own arm if its conduct is found hostile to you. Thank you for being here, devotees. So here the Lord is speaking. Can you turn down number 2 and number 1? So here the Lord is speaking to the 4 Kumaras. Right? So the doorkeepers were cursed by the 4 Kumaras, and now the Lord is speaking to the 4 Kumaras, and he is describing how he is to blame. So he spends actually 6 or 3 verses here all 6 of the verses are specifically about the curse, but in this verse specifically, he's describing how a devotee of the Lord is fully purified, immediately purified, sadhya, is the word. Sadhyaha, immediately, purified. Punati, purifies, right? Sadhya punati jagad ashvapachad vikunta, right? So he says that anywhere in the entire universe, anyone in the world, ashvapachat, including even the dog eaters, right? Such a person is immediately purified by hearing through the ear the glorification of my name, fame, etc. So this Shravana, Krishna Shravana, this is the process by which we can become completely purified. And the Lord here is reaffirming that. It's stated in the Bhagavad Gita that if one isn't even advanced in knowledge, but they have a tendency to hear from others, right? Then they will also achieve the supreme destination by hearing from the right authorities. And it's stated in the Bhagavad Gita also that even those of any class, right? Krishna spends a few verses describing how persons which are in the lower classes of society in terms of karma, right? So body means karma. So there's different higher and lower statuses according to karma. So it doesn't have anything to do with the soul, except that that soul is currently experiencing more or less sinful reactions. So it doesn't mean that somebody else who's in a different body isn't going to get his just in a short time. Maybe for right now, this person is more situated in the higher situated in the material classifications. But this verse, as well as the verses in Bhagavad Gita, state that anybody who takes shelter in Lord Krishna, he says that anybody who takes shelter in me, even though they be of lower birth, right, they can attain the supreme destination. And then Lord Krishna says, what to speak of those who are fully engaged in, devotional service from those higher classes, right? And that means everybody. And this is what the purpose of the Sankirtan movement is. Sankirtan movement means the Samyag Kirtan, which means the complete and total glorification of the Lord. It means everything becomes engaged in the Lord's service. There's a verse which is stated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which states that anything which is connected with Lord Krishna actually becomes spiritualized. And we can understand that when we take prasadam, when we hear the holy names, when we contact with the books, or when we engage something in service. This is the principle of yukta vairagya. So this Sankirtan movement means that everything becomes engaged in the Lord's service. Everything becomes for his glorification. So everyone is actually a Sankirtan devotee, and all of our services are meant to actually be connected with the propagation of the Lord's holy name, his fame, his qualities, etc. So we try hard to learn from Srila Prabhupada how to stay constantly engaged in that process, as he was stating a few days ago, that this Sankirtan is supposed to go on 24 hours a day. But unfortunately, because we have these contaminated material bodies, which are the symbol of sin, we cannot properly engage in 24-hour service until we become liberated, or Jivan Mukta. So that process to become Jivan Mukta is slow and gradual. And that process is being described here in this purport, that if one who takes to Krishna consciousness, right, It stated, these attitudes are forbidden. What attitudes are those? To understand that somebody in a lower status is still categorized in that same way according to the body, right? That's not Krishna consciousness. It says these attitudes are forbidden because anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness is understood to be fully purified. Then Prabhupada states, at least he is at least engaged in the process of purification. And if he sticks to the principle of Krishna consciousness, he will very soon be fully purified. So this is the idea, is that we're in the shower, we're called sadhakas. There's the sadhya, or the goal of human life, which Lord Chaitanya discusses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then there's the sadhana, or the process by which to attain that goal. So the goal of our sadhana is prema, Krishna prema, or you could say that the goal of our sadhana is to become fully conscientious, fully identified with our eternal identity, which is servant of the 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 servant of Krishna, a million times removed. That's who we really are. So our goal is to actually regain that constitutional identity, not be identifying with these bodies, and not be identifying as Brahman only, spirit, I am spirit, or I am actually God. Yes, you are God, but you're only part of God, a tiny drop of the ocean, right? So the idea is that those two levels, that means karmi, then jnani. If you want to be a bhakti yogi, then you identify as servant of the 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 servant, a million times removed, of Krishna. More or less, we're insignificant. Every single person that we see is a spirit soul, right? Every single person, and every single ant, every single germ, every single tree, plant, grass, bug, etc. So this is just one universe. And you can understand from the Brahma Samhita that there's koti, there's unlimited or millions, basically uncountable numbers of jagadanta, koti, unlimited number of universes, which are round. The universe is a round shape. Jagadanta koti. This means that Lord Krishna, he has unlimited universes, and actually it's spoken between Lord Chaitanya and Vasudev Datta that Lord Chaitanya is saying, you want to liberate all the persons in this entire universe. It's done already by your desire. That's how purchased the Lord is by his pure devotee. He automatically liberated everyone in the universe. He said, but automatically, right, the universe will be filled again, practically. But he said, even if, because that was what the question was like, what will happen to the universe if everyone becomes purified and liberated? Then Lord Chaitanya was saying that it's just like one little mustard seed in a whole bag of mustard seeds, a huge bag. And if you have, seen in India, they pile up the little trucks and the carts super high, and it's mystical potency to be able to do that on the bumpy roads. But Krishna Shravana Prabhu was growing mustard. Mustard is like a type of a green leaf, but when you let it seed, it becomes a long pod. Inside of those long pods are tiny black mustard seeds, and they're very pungent. To properly cook a mustard seed, it has to turn gray and has to pop. Therefore, generally, you actually cook it in a certain methods, like putting ghee first, then you put it in first, practically, and let it gray and pop. That will release the flavors. Is it correct, Krishna Shravana Prabhu? Yes. So then this is the mustard seed. It's super tiny. And you have a whole bag full of mustard seeds. That's like Jagadanda Koti. That's how many universes. So we were speaking. Everybody we see is spirit soul. All life. I mean, if there's life, there's spirit, right? there's no life, then it's just matter. So the point I'm trying to say is all these persons are spirit soul, right? And they're all identifying with the body. And when somebody takes to Krishna consciousness, right, then he starts to see, theoretically, I am an insignificant servant of Krishna, because all these are actually servants of Krishna, not only in this universe, but every single universe. And I'm just one of these people who's supposed to serve Krishna eternally through service to his servants, through the system of disciplic succession. So that's our real identity, insignificant servant of Krishna. And that's called bhakti. So when we take to Krishna consciousness, that conception or that reality is imbued in Krishna consciousness. You can't get away from that. You can't perform Krishna consciousness without touching that constitutional identity. But it's just our consciousness catching up to the reality. Therefore, the neophyte is thinking, I am a very great devotee of Krishna. I know Krishna. I speak to Krishna. I am this and I am that about Krishna. It's contaminated consciousness. But if he's serving Krishna, he will catch up. And eventually his consciousness will be fully purified. And he'll say, I'm just one of the insignificant servants of Krishna. I'm not a big devotee. I'm not a great devotee. Right? I'm just a servant of the 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 devotees of Krishna, you could say. Right? So that's the real identity of the soul. That's who we are. So Krishna consciousness, meaning when you glorify Krishna, that is servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Because how do you know about Krishna's name? You didn't know. You didn't know. So it is servant of the servant because you're getting the name from the disciplic succession. We didn't know God's name. We didn't even know about God. Much less did we even know we weren't this body, level 1. Whenever we were born, immediately we're contaminated by the modes of nature and we think we're this body completely. I'm a boy. I'm a girl. I'm this. I'm that. I'm a ball player. I'm a chess man. I'm an artist. I'm this. I'm this. Right? Fully convinced. Bodily conception of life. So we didn't even know ABCs, much less did we know about God or Krishna. So therefore, devotional service, it cannot be separated from servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. But how much we realize that means how long we stay in the shower. Means don't stop serving for any reason, ever. It means always chant the Lord's names, right? That's specifically the most important process in this age of Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, there's so many faults. But if we simply glorify the name of Krishna, right? That is the one good quality. Mahat Guna. That one great quality of Kali Yuga is simply by chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna, we can be completely purified. So the Lord is speaking here to the 4 Kumaras and he's saying, now you have realized me without doubt. It means that they had taken a bath in hearing through the ear the glorification of my name, fame, etc. Right? So they had heard sufficiently about the Lord. And because of this hearing process, one becomes so dear to Krishna that he's willing to lop off his own arm. And he states, previously, Lord Vishnu is stating, because my devotees did this to you, and they're my servants, then I'm responsible. Therefore, if one of my servants has disrespected you, then it's my fault. So the Lord is like that. He's willing to take the blame. This is actually the most wonderful quality, or one of the most wonderful qualities of a leader, is that they take responsibility for the inappropriate actions of their dependents, they can actually scientifically understand how it was actually my fault. And they're willing to take that responsibility. And because they're willing to take that responsibility, then they become dear to the Lord, right? Because leadership, especially within Krishna consciousness, is all about engagement. Leadership means to help find proper engagement for many other persons, right? So if there's a little voluntary spirit within the devotees, which generally there is because bhakti is voluntary, then those devotees bring that to the leader and say, this is my inspiration. I'm being inspired by Krishna to do this and this. Then they bring it to the leader and the leader says, yes, adjust in this way and it'll become possible through this means, go through these channels, and then you can do your service. And like that. So this is what Prabhupada has done. He did this for thousands upon thousands of devotees by letter, by his mind, by his books. And now we're following in those footsteps and we're taking up this process of glorification of Lord Krishna because of Srila Prabhupada's sublime transcendental leadership. And he is like the commander-in-chief, the general, Senapati Bhakta, the commander-in-chief who has spread Krishna consciousness all over the whole world on behalf of Lord Chaitanya and the Parampara. So we're very fortunate to be in his company and as his servants, as a one world team trying to spread his books all over the whole planet. So we'll try to help everybody hear about the Lord through these transcendental books. And we pray to Shri Shri Gornitai that if they so desire, we can increase our capacity for book distribution at RVC by trying our best to give Krishna consciousness to everybody we meet. And the culmination of that is to send them with one of these books. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So would anybody like to add anything now?